Good morning. Hi, Creative Mornings. It's nice to see a bunch of familiar faces out there and a ton of new ones as well. Thanks for the introduction, Juliet, and thanks for having us this morning. Like Juliet said, wrong way. There we go. My name's Joanna Bowers, and I'm lucky enough that I get to work for a living as a director. I'm a storyteller, essentially, and somehow I've managed to get paid for that. I think it's a lot of our dreams in here is to find this one thing that we're super passionate about and actually find a way to do that for a living. So my form of storytelling is a visual form of storytelling. I find a way to get my stories across using moving pictures with a beginning, a middle and an end, so that hopefully everybody follows the story all the way through. I didn't set out to be a director at all. I went to school for broadcast journalism in the UK with the BBC and moved to Los Angeles swiftly after graduating because that seemed like the place to start a career in the film industry. And I worked my way up through commercial production. I worked for all kinds of tyrannical directors, never thought I wanted to be a director. And then one day one of my best friends came to me and her mum had passed away and she and her sisters had gone to Ireland to scatter the ashes, and she came back and told me this funny, sweet, inspiring story, and I was like, I'll write that as a short story, which she did. We raised the money. It was my first crowdfunding experience back in 2009, and we made a Violet Rose. This is a still from it. That's Momo in the pink in the back. And from my first day on set as a director, I was just like, oh my God, I love this. I found my dream job and I was like, okay, now I have to figure out how to get people to pay me to do this. That's the big challenge. So started working. I started off my own back. I think I was very lucky to come into this at the time when digital filmmaking, had just happened. So suddenly with a 5D, anyone can be a director. And I was lucky I had a crowd of friends who were all coming up with me, so we just all collaborated together on putting projects together and finishing them. This was Little Red Riding Hood, the dark adaptation that we made of it. And then from there I started getting hired. Like, people actually started paying me to do this thing that I love. So I started shooting a lot of fashion films, ballerinas in lingerie, all kinds of dead models. And then I started doing that in Hong Kong as well, and I started getting some big corporate clients, which was incredibly exciting. Then from there, I started traveling. People started sending me to China, to Nepal. This was one of the farmers. I made a film about cotton farming, sustainable cotton farming in Nepal for a company called VF Corporation here. And this was one of the stills, and I just started falling in love with these pictures. Like, this guy was amazing, and the happiest cotton farmer I've ever met. So while we were there, as part of the storytelling program, this wasn't even part of the film, but we suddenly realized that a lot of these people in these rural villages in the middle of nowhere in China hadn't actually ever seen a picture of themselves. So we had a Polaroid camera with us, and we took pictures of all these people, and then we gave them to them. And this was a lot of the moments of these people sort of seeing their first pictures, which was a really fun initiative, came completely out of the blue, completely spontaneous, but it really engaged me in this whole storytelling and the documentary process. Next, after that, I got sent to Nepal by a Hong Kong charity called CWS. They fund projects that look after vulnerable children all throughout Nepal. So this was an incredible mountain village, 5-hour bus journey from Pokhara. This is us on the bus. It was the scariest ride of my life. This is basically the slide that goes to illustrate that the film industry is not glamorous whatsoever, no matter what you think. I've never sat on a director's chair. On this bus ride, most of the journey I either had a chicken in a basket next to me or a bag of piglets. Don't do it because you think it's glamorous if you're thinking about getting into the film industry. But this was the payoff. Up in this mountain village, we made a film about a woman called Chandra. She had lost her husband, who had gone off as a migrant worker to Nepal, to Saudi Arabia from Nepal, and he had gone missing. And her story was so compelling to me. I've always been intrigued by women's stories, and I feel like as a filmmaker, you tell the stories that you know, you tell the stories that you understand, and I was so proud of this little piece, and it really gave me some confidence as a filmmaker. So then, back in Hong Kong, I'd always had my eye on the domestic helpers from sort of the very first weekend that I was here, walking around the raised walkways in Central. I was flat hunting in Soho, and I was just like, what is this? Like, how come all these women are sat out in cardboard shelters? Like, why can't they afford, to go to the movies like the rest of us? And it really piqued my interest, and I was like, there has to be a story there. And that's where Tony Verb comes in.
The real question is, who is this Hungarian? And what is Hungary? But actually, it doesn't really matter too much, because we're here for a reason. My story, in a nutshell, is I've been an entrepreneur since I was 19. My second business was running a creative agency, and that took me to different fields of the creative industries, and it brought me to Hong Kong, and brought me to Hong Kong because Hong Kong is simply great. I lived in 6-7 countries, 10 cities, and this is the longest period of time that I stayed in one place for since I was 12. It's 5 years. It's exactly the same time we've spent in this city, and ever since I arrived, I was looking at what could be actually even better. And the first time I really came here with an open eye was 6 years ago, and I had some heritage in the cultural festival industry. And I saw that Hong Kong wanted to become a culture and art hub of Asia, and I thought I could contribute to that. So that took me to my involvement to Clock and Flap, and it was a fantastic journey, but it has something to do with our journey as well. Obviously, the domestic helper situation was something that also, I think we share this, whoever is coming from overseas, that's probably the most impactful scene that we face on the first week that we are here, the walkways, right? And that was the same with me. And I started to do some research and investigation why this situation is the way it is, and what could be done to make a difference. And my ideas, as someone coming from the creative industries, was to do a TV show to change the perception. And I always had the idea of coming from a positive angle. What really impressed me about my own domestic helper was she had a better degree and a better education than I did, and she was cleaning my toilet. And I said this was just not right. And I took time to have conversations with her, and then I realized that no one else is having conversations with her because she was a part-time helper. And I talked to more helpers, and I realized that was the common Hong Kong situation. And what I wanted to do with that TV show is to take them on a journey and show how well-rounded people they are, how multi-layered people they are, that they are actually real people, and make the Hong Kong public understand that and appreciate them. I met and encountered a fantastic friend along that journey, J. David Harden, who's not in the city anymore, and we almost sold the TV show concept to Fox, but in the end did not. And when I was asking around the town who I should be working with, I was referred to Joanna Bowers, and she told me, yes, I've been thinking about doing a documentary. This was actually more than 3 years ago. And I said, okay, you want to do a documentary, I'm doing a TV show, you don't have time. I actually don't have time, it didn't happen, but we stayed friends. And what happened then, about half a year ago, when the Ariana conviction happened, and I'm sure everyone knows about this, if not, please do some research, because this has been one of the most important domestic helper related issues of the last couple of years. this was a moment, and it was a very interesting window of opportunity in my personal life. I had time, I wanted to dedicate some resource to things that I really cared about, and there was this flood of news about domestic helpers, and I felt that was the moment to do something. And I remembered our conversation with Joanna, our first conversation, gave her a call. Do you have time? Do you want to do this? She said yes, yes. We set up a website and off we went half a year ago. And here we are. Let me do this.
Okay. So how does one go about putting together a documentary? We went out with a camera. Our first weekend, we went out into Statue Square and we went out to Victoria Park and we started talking to helpers, because at first we wanted to make sure, well, we think we've got a handle on these issues, but is this right? And yeah, like they started talking to us and they started saying, sometimes it sucks, sometimes it's really hard, but the main theme that just kept coming back to us again and again and again was, I'm here for my children. I'm here to work. I'm here to earn money. I'm here to send it back for my children. I want to put my children through school. I want my children to go to university. Like this was what these women kept saying again and again. And so it became pretty evident to us quite quickly that this was going to have to be the angle of our documentary. That we'd seen loads of news stories, the straight news stories of how hard life was for these women. But if we were going to make a feature-length documentary, we needed an angle, and we needed an angle that resonated internationally. So we found that we started talking to friends around the world, and anytime you suggested to someone outside of Hong Kong, can you imagine you've got a 6-month-old baby and you're about to leave it for maybe 2 years, maybe 4 years, sometimes even longer? Like the reaction from people unanimously around the world was like, no way, what? Why would anyone do that? So that was our engagement angle. And then we came across the unsung heroes, and Jane Engelman, who's this incredible music teacher, had written this song called I Wish I Could Kiss You Goodnight, and the song went viral, and it made me cry the first time I watched the video. It's an incredibly powerful song, and it was a really resonating way for these women to tell their story. So we pretty unanimously decided, all right, this is the angle of the story. We're going to tell the stories of the ladies in the Unsung Heroes choir.
And I think it's very important to understand why because we spent an awful lot of time in the creative development process, because there are documentaries happening around the domestic helpers. Great people are doing great efforts to get the stories told, but all of those are very journalistic, investigative kind of approaches. And what we figured that to create a real impact or make a real impact in the scene, we need to raise the awareness around the issue on an international level. So we really needed to find an internationally resonating storyline. And in the end, the other challenge was how do we turn this into a positive story that people are actually happy to watch. And we figured, if it's about the unsung heroes, let's celebrate them on the greatest stage in Hong Kong, and the greatest stage is Cock and Flap. So on a Sunday, the unsung heroes will be performing on the main stage of Cock and Flap this year as the grand finale of the documentary, and the storyline will be following the rehearsal process of the ladies and getting to know their individual life stories, and through their life stories getting to know the domestic helper situation in Hong Kong. Those life stories are not exclusively negative, are not exclusively about the abuse cases. We'll showcase that there are 330,000 domestic helpers in Hong Kong, and they are 330,000 different real people with real life stories. Bad, sad, happy and good.
I guess the main aim of this documentary ultimately, and we're going to show you the trailer in a second, the main aim is a shift in perception. We're not trying to change any laws, we're not lobbying politically, we're trying to go for a shift in perception. If everybody in Hong Kong that employs a domestic helper sees them as a real person, maybe rather than, sometimes the perception can be, yeah, it's just a helper. you know. But if people have an understanding of this person's got a story, this person's got a family, this person's got a reason that they're here, you know, cleaning my bathroom, like, then I think that's going to improve the situation all around. At least that's our hope. We do have to say as well, it's actually a massive thank you to Creative Mornings, because we wouldn't have been able to put this project together if it wasn't for you guys. Mandy Queen, who we mentioned at the beginning, she's one of the co-organisers. She came on board as soon as she's been a long-term friend of mine. As soon as she heard about the project, she was like, that's it, I'm in. Cred has been looking for our one pro bono project for the year. I want in on this, I want to take you guys on. And they've done a wonderful job. The entire team at Cred Communications has been amazing. Then from Mandy, from coming here, Mandy introduced me to Tom, who's from Treacle. And so Treacle has handled all of our animation, all of our titles, and even came on board and did the edit for the trailer, which has been phenomenal. Also through Juliet, we were introduced to our incredible graphic designer, Alison Burton Parker, and she is just a legend in the sort of creative direction world in Asia. And all of these people have come on board. Oh, Simon Fuller as well over at the back. He did some filming for us. He did a colour grade for us. Everybody's just chipped in. So it's really sort of testament to the creative community in Hong Kong that we've even been able to get this far, because we've done it so far with no money. Everybody's donated their time, their energy, their skills, their creativity and their resources. So we're incredibly thankful for that.
I would like to highlight as well that the proof that the story is actually resonating and the story is important not only for Hong Kong but beyond, that a Grammy and Tony Award winner, conductor and composer came on board to the team, Steve Sidwell, and he's going to rescore the song, the I Wish I Could Kiss You Goodnight, that the ladies will be performing at Clockenflap, and he will be conducting the show live. So it's a very big thing. He lives in Hollywood, and obviously he's a good friend of Joanna's, and he's just Stevie, but he said immediately yes, without even blinking an eye, correct? We are also having a producers ball extra fundraising event on the 10th of September, and we are in touch with Manny Pacquiao's agent to bring him for the dinner, and it's definitely not a no, it's a possibility. It just shows that it makes sense, and it makes us very, very happy how it's received, not only in Hong Kong, but basically all over the world.
Yeah. So I guess this brings us to, like, okay, why are we here this morning? In terms of action, we need your support at this point. We've got our Facebook page up and running. Oh, this is the stills of us making the production so far. So far we've shot most of our key interviews of the story. All of the opinion leaders, all of the heads of the NGOs, Justice Sweeting who founded Clockenflap, we've shot all of them for this trailer. We've shot a few domestic helpers, but we haven't really jumped into the bulk of the production because we don't want to intrude into these women's lives until we're absolutely certain that this film is going to happen. You know, I think domestic helpers' lives are generally quite simple, so to bust in there and be like, yeah, I'm going to make a movie about you, and then have it not happen would be an awful thing. So we've started our Facebook page right now, The Helper Documentary. So it's facebook.com/The Helper Documentary. If you guys could all get on there and please like our page and start sharing our Kickstarter link. And then on, what day was it? On Monday? Yeah, on Monday, we launched our Kickstarter campaign. This is probably the scariest thing I've ever done in my entire life. We're looking to raise $80,000 US dollars. So that $80,000 is going to fund the production of this film. We've used up all of our favors at this point. You know, everybody's donated their time and their energy into helping us tell this story. And from now here on out, we need about 35 days of filming in order to finish this documentary. And you know, we need the top crew to finish that, and we need to pay them something at least. They're all doing decent discounts, but we've got to pay them something. So we think this story is really important to be told. We think these women's lives will resonate around the world, and we think the stories are very important to share. So we're going to show you the trailer for our Kickstarter now.
I just wanted to add one more thing. Is I think you will share, as creative people, our approach to this. Probably we could finish the documentary, you know, in a couple of years, bootstrapping and relying on favors. But we really want to make an impact, and we cannot just rely on favors. It's not how, as creative people, you know that people always ask your help and your expertise for free. There's a tendency, since we are creative people, we know that the real value cannot be expected for free, and we don't expect that. We want to make this an internationally top quality documentary that will really raise the awareness and the quality of the conversation around the issue, and we need to work with the top people and book their time and so on. So it's the $80,000 is actually just enough to get going in a very good quality level, and we are positive that we can raise the rest after that once we have that foundation. But altogether, we want to win international awards because that's what brings us closer to our goal to change perception. So let's see the trailer now.
Yeah, you've all got 4 minutes to download the Kickstarter app while the video is playing. Thank you so much for listening.
After 1 year here in Hong Kong, I have a chance to see my kids, and then my youngest daughter didn't recognize me.
Within the city, there are actually 330,000 migrant domestic workers, 64% of whom are also mothers. These women are Hong Kong's unsung heroes. It's an incredible maternal sacrifice that they make, and so as a filmmaker, that's what intrigued me and made me want to tell these stories.
My name is Connie Celica.
My name is Jenny Silim.
My name is Muji Astri.
Hi, Hong Kong cho Kung Yan. I've been here for 7 years. I'm from Indonesia.
I've been working here for 20 years.
I work for my children.
I want to help my family, my kids.
I miss them a lot.
The Unsung Heroes Choir was an idea I had in my mind for quite a long time. I was so grateful to these women who had made this enormous sacrifice and left their children behind, and they were helping me, looking after my children, and I was indebted to them. So I kind of wanted to say thank you. But my hope for them is that their voices can be heard and that they can tell their stories.
My parents took care of my son since his first year.
It's hard to find work in the Philippines.
Your employer sometimes did not treat you well, sometimes no food to eat.
Cannot take care of them. I take care of other people's kids, not my own.
When I came to Hong Kong and I saw what was happening here with domestic helpers, it immediately surprised me because I didn't think that in the modern world employment practices like that still existed.
What makes it difficult for domestic helpers in Hong Kong is basically the lack of application of the law by the Labour Department.
One of our clients was in Chongqing Mansions and was asked by a man there who pointed at her swollen belly and said, "Do you want that one?"
From the very, very minute that they step foot in Hong Kong, they oftentimes have several months worth of debt that they have to overcome.
And he said, well, if you change your mind, the starting price is US dollars 30,000.
Foreign domestic helpers make a very big contribution to Hong Kong.
I would not have been able to work.
I don't think I would have been able to cope as a single mother without the support of a domestic helper.
I think they are the literally unsung heroes of Hong Kong.
I would be beside you, I would find a way.
My message to my children, it's relates the song that we are singing for them, the unsung heroes. I wish I could kiss them every night.
I am unbelievably excited for the Unsung Heroes to play Clockenflap.
Through music we can get this message across and people will understand their plight.
The timing, the context, everything about the message is very relevant to Hong Kong right now.
Making the film is going to help tremendously.
and it's a story that should be told.
Amazing, it's timely, it's necessary.
In terms of telling people that this exists.
We should thank them, and if they face problems, we should try to help to solve those problems.
Well, I would like to get these stories to be seen and heard by as many people as possible all around the world.
We think these unsung heroes' stories are worth telling, so please support our Kickstarter campaign to make the Helper documentary and help us do just that.